Hey YouTube, this is my intermediate kit for sports photographers in 2019. Let's go. Okay, what's up YouTube? Let's talk the ultimate setup that we're talking stripped down setup that a sports photographer needs in 2019. The minimum amount of gear you need to really just crush it in almost all situations. So, camera body. It's the best. It is the Nikon D5. Right now starts being a really good time to get a pro body like this because the D6 is on the horizon. A lot of people are jumping to mirrorless already. And if you are going to make your name shooting sports photography, you need a real pro body. You're going to be putting thousands of frames through your camera every weekend, and the shutter in this kind of camera is what's going to keep up with that. It's durable, so you're shoving it in backpacks, you're putting it in cases, it's going to survive, and the image quality just cannot be beat. The way to buy a camera like this is always used. Jump onto Amazon, take a look at B&H. You are going to save thousands of dollars on a camera like this. I bought this camera used from a good photography buddy of mine, saved a ton of money, and it works fantastically. It does a great job. I feel no strangeness that I used used gear. Almost everything I own is used, and I've saved a ton of money that I've been able to reinvest into the business and do other things with. So let's talk about the three lenses that I think are just absolutely essential. We'll start at the wide end, 35 prime Sigma 1.4. I think this is one of the best value for quality lenses on the market right now. I've had this thing for years. I've taken a billion photos with it. It just works. The reason why you need a prime in addition to a wide telephoto is there are some situations, especially in sporting environments, where there is just not enough light. It doesn't matter if you have a high ISO monster, you need a lens that can just turn it to 11, that it can go 1.8, that it can go 1.4 if you need to. If you're in a locker room or something, a tunnel, somewhere dark. Obviously, I do a ton of CrossFit stuff, so I'm in gym environments all the time. At a certain point, if there is no light, you just have to turn it up and switch to a prime lens. With the 35, I find I can get that really consistently. And when you're showing up to bigger and bigger jobs, you have to have those options in front of you. Okay, let's talk telephoto. Telephoto? Mid-range telephoto? Whatever this is called. Tamron 24-70, 2.8. Got that built-in VC in there. This lens rocks. I had the version 1 forever. I replaced it with this when I saw the reviews and I knew the value on my old lens was as high as possible, so I sold that off, bought this guy. It really feels like cheating. The jump in this lens from the older version is just fantastic. The image quality is extraordinarily high. The stabilization is extraordinarily good. And I just really like the feel of it. The real thing, I talked about this in another video, but the real downside of this lens to me is these stupid switches. They drive me nuts. The number of times I've gone to take a picture after I've had this on my hip and that the autofocus was now just clicked off, it's happened a bunch. The number of times I've gone through half a job and then realized vibration control was turned off because it just clipped my hip. Drives me nuts. Yes, I know I could tape it. I didn't tape it. Really, really, really solid lens. And what all sports photographers really have to have, you have to have a 70-200. This is the Nikon 70-200 2.8 version 2. I love it. It's great. I've talked about this in a number of videos. It just gets the job done. It rocks. It's durable. It's weather sealed. You know, you just can't beat it. Again, buy it used. You're going to save a ton of money. Cool. So, 3 lenses plus a pro body, buy it all used, you are going to be able to really handle almost every situation a sports photographer is going to come up against and do great. Now, all right, we'll also talk about why in this kit I'm not including my monster that I have, but I would not recommend most people buy this. And this is going to be the whole conversation about renting versus buying. So that is the Sigma 120-300 2.8. Fantastic lens, very unique, crushes it. I've taken some of my favorite photos ever with this lens. I actually think the stuff on these screens from the games is actually taken on this lens. Absolutely rocks. But that's an over $3,000 lens. Then when you start talking about other super telephotos like the Nikon 200-400, I think that's over $7,000. And yes, there is a time and a place for those lenses. For the most part, for most people, that is too expensive to buy, that they are not using it enough. What you need to do for a lens like this, or bigger than that, is just add up how many games are you shooting? How many times are you actually going to use it? Figure out what that number is. Let's say you think you're going to shoot 10 games or something like that in a year, and you're going to really rely on this 120-300. Look then at whatever your local rental house is and see what that is going to cost to rent. Now, run the math on that. How much is that going to cost you in 1 year? So like if you're talking that it's going to cost you $300 to rent the lens for 10 weekends, that's $3,000, right? That means it's probably a pretty good idea if you're getting that kind of consistency, buy the lens. It makes sense. But if you're like, I'm going to use this once every 6 months, and really I could probably still squeak by with that 70-200, that is a great example of if it's time, rent it. Or more importantly, get your client to rent it for you. You shouldn't be paying for that, right? Same thing with the 200-400. I've debated a million times buying it. But big field sports are not my thing, and I only really need it like 1 or 2 weekends a year. So spending $7,000 for that wouldn't make sense. It would take years for me to pay something like that off. Whereas renting it, or oftentimes being able to charge the client to rent it for me, that's gonna do the job. So as much as something like this is fun to own and use, you need to run the numbers and make sense if it's actually worth it for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please smash that like button, hit the subscribe. It does wonders for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you.